look at the first one in detail. I'm going to start facing this way so that we're in the same direction, and then I'll show you more details. So we start just like 13 postures. Well, actually, before we start. So we'll see that the first one is really the first time that we expand from the 13 postures, right? The 13 postures essentially introduce the grammar that we're going to use, all the basic elements, the 8 basic moves, the 5 directions, and the idea of these directionalities, right? The square that we're stepping in, the 4 cardinal directions, and the diagonals. First one is the first time where we take all of these ideas and we start exploring them and expanding them, making them a little more complicated. But you'll see that everything is based on what you've done in the 13 postures, so nothing should be too surprising. So let's start. So we start just like 13 postures. So if this is our front, we feet together, heels together, and we sit down on the right leg, step to the left, come to center, inhale, stand up, exhale, sitting down. Oh, hips are tucked, raise the arms to the basic posture, and shift to the left, turn to the right, towards the right diagonal. Drop the hands, rise up, sit down, rise up and push. Sit down on the left leg, shift, bring the right toes to the front, shift the weight into the right leg, turn to the left diagonal, rise up, sit down, push. So let's take a look at that again. So from here, it's a shift to the left, turn to the right, hands are dropping, rise up, yank down, push. Rise up, yank down, push. Essentially, you're doing 2 drag downs, 1 to each diagonal. So whereas before we did drag down here, nice and deep and pushing, here we're going to do drag down essentially to the elbow. So from here, we shift to the left leg, turn to the right diagonal. As we turn to the right diagonal, the right hand sweeps down towards my hip, left hand comes to rest in front of my belly button, pointing to the diagonal. Now from here, rise up, so picking up the knee, picking up the hand, just like in 13 postures. Instead of going here in 13 postures, I'm going to stay here. Right? So this is on my opponent's arm, and then rise up and strike. Picking up the heel of the foot, I'm rising up on the left leg. I'm not shifting forward, I'm rising up and striking. And then sit back down on the left foot, turn, bring the foot so that it's pointing to the front. So the front cardinal, shift the weight to the right, sit down, turn to face the diagonal, hands sweep, right hand stop so that it's in front of my belly button, stand up, drag down, rise up and strike. So the thing to remember is that we saw from the 13 postures is that you remember the feet are always pointing in one of 8 directions. So if my front foot is pointing front, which is the direction of my intent, my rear foot is pointing to the diagonal of that, right? So it's always at the 45. So when we're here, I want to go to the diagonal. My left foot, in this case, is already in the correct position because it's at the 45 of the direction that I want to go in. So when I'm here, I shift, turn, I'm pivoting on the ball of the foot, so to release my leg so that my leg is now pointing in the right direction, and then stand up, sit down, rise up and push. And notice I'm also unrolling the foot, heel to toe, heel to toe, and then sit down. Now I turn, bring my right toes to face cardinal, shift the weight to the right leg. So my right leg now is in the correct position because I want to go to this diagonal. So I turn, and again I'm pivoting on the ball of the foot so that now my left leg is pointing in the right direction. So that I'm maintaining the connection between the toes, the knee, and the hip. Right? Because I don't want my knee to go in different directions. So I pivot on the ball of the foot, my knee is pointing front, hip is pointing front. So from here, pick up the foot, and again, heel to toes, heel to toes, and this is a strike. So just like drag down, except that now we're doing there's somebody coming at you and it's from up high, so it's a punch that's higher. So you deflect, control, hand is on the arm, yank down, rise up and strike. That would be a strike to the face or to the neck, right? Boom. So it's higher. It's like drag down, but we're doing it higher. Boom, boom. It has the same principles. Okay? From here, turn, boom. Which is why, again, I'm using the edge of the hand, deflects. In this case, the right hand cups my opponent's elbow, so it's in front of my belly, palm facing to the side. Pick up, my hand goes to the side, rise and strike. Right? Remember, we're coming here, the hand goes behind the hip, and this is the moment of drag. That's the yank here, and then from here, rise up and strike. Keeping contact. All right, so when I'm here, strike, keeping contact with the hands, just very slight, just so that way I know where my hand is in relationship to my body. So from here, here to here. Okay, so if we're facing front, from here, we shift to the left, turn to the right, drag down, rise up and push, sit down, bring the hands and the foot so they face front, shift the weight onto the right leg, turn so that now we're facing the left diagonal, drag down, rise up and push. Now from here, brush knee, swooping the leg and striking. So now we're facing the cardinal. So we've used drag down to change directions. Again here, instead of doing the drag down that we see in the 13 postures, right? Remember, which is here nice and deep, we're gonna stay a little more upright. So instead of brushing the knee, you wanna think it's almost like brushing the elbow. So we were here, circle the hands just like brush knee, except that in this case, my left foot is now gonna sweep as I turn until it faces the cardinal. So we're here, I shift the weight back onto my right leg. When my hands are facing back and I'm about to turn to look the other way, I turn, sweep my foot, shift, and strike, right? So brush knee, except that instead of doing that deep step, we're facing here, circle, sweep the foot forward, sweep the hand, so it's basically brushing an elbow and then striking. Same as before, bringing my right toes in, right? So we're here, strike, so drag down, strike, shift back, sweep to the left, step, and strike with the right palm. And again, so we're here, I circle, my foot sweeps, and then I shift as I turn, so now I'm facing the cardinal. I bring the toes in, not in front, they still have to be behind. So I'm sitting down on the left leg, toes are behind, striking with the right palm. And my left hand, after you've swept, is simply here and here. So my hand is essentially resting the side of my thigh, right here. So we're standing like this. Okay, so it's exactly like brush knee that we did before in the 13 postures, but we're not going low, we're staying high. So after I've done that, it's a really cool move actually. So we're here, just so that we keep our bearings. So turn to the right diagonal, then turn to the left diagonal, and then brush elbow to the left cardinal, and then we're going to step to the side, turn, separate the hands, turn, step, and jab. And this towards the front left diagonal. Okay? So, what did we just do? We were facing this way. We stepped, turn, separate the hands, turn, boom. Okay? So if I've just done brush knee, step, turn, bring the hand here, separate the hands, turn, and push. Now, this might look complicated, but actually you've done this before, because it should remind you of something, because we've done this step before, which is play the pipa. So in the 13 postures, after brush knee, we do play the pipa. Boom. And this is essentially exactly the same thing, except that in play the pipa, somebody hits us here, so we step to avoid the punch. And as we do that, we also sweep the hand, and now my arm is above my opponent's, then I yank down, right? And then I push. So that works if it's a high punch to the face, for example. You're deflecting and then you pull down. But what happens if it's a low punch? It's exactly what we're going to do. So we're here, step. Now instead, this time my arm is down. Play the pipa before the arm was up. Now we're just going to do play the pipa with the arm is down. Here. The problem is that now how do we do the next step? Because we don't just do a deflection, then we want to do a yank. Right? We want to pull on the guy's arm. Well, the only way I can do that is if I'm here, if I bring my left hand in this case up, and then I use my elbow to hook his arm, and then I use my waist to turn. So the yank is here using my elbow to yank. So this is one of the reasons why that I keep going over the application so that you have a clear sense of why we're doing all of this. If you don't know that in this case you're hooking with your elbow and that you're using your waist to turn, because notice here my elbow stays in the same place relationship to my body. If you don't know that, it's very easy to start doing things like this. Right? No engagement, you're just moving your hand through the air, and you're making your shoulders do all the work, when actually it's your hips that need to do the work. So, from here, when I step, this is the deflection. Notice that one of the things I do is I create a curve with my arm, right? So we're here, when I step, create that curve with the arm, because this is the deflection. Something is coming here, the step, boom. See that? Boom, that's the deflection. So, from here, deflect, I've stepped, separate the hands. Notice this hand is down, palm facing down because it's holding my opponent's arm. Now that I'm sitting on my rear leg, on the right leg in this case, the elbow is now going to hook onto my opponent's elbow, and I'm going to sit down and turn the waist. Notice it's all coming from the core, it's all coming from the waist. It's here, turn the waist. That's the yank. And then I step, right, and rise up and push. This is either a push with the back of the hand, it can be a jab, it can be a punch. But the idea is that yank, rise up and push. Right, so it's play the pipa, but done low. And again, this is why it's important for you to know what the application is, so that you know that it's not the arms and the shoulders moving, it's the waist, it's the hips, right? Hips are tucked, sitting on that rear leg, hips are tucked, and I'm using the waist and the core to turn and then expand. Otherwise, like I said before, all your hands, if it's just the hands moving, there's no involvement of the lower body. You don't have that sense of compression and expansion that you want, which involves the entire body. So you're really rooted in that foot, because the only way to do this correctly is to really sit down and turn. You're pivoting into the ground in order to have the leverage, to brush, right, with the elbow, yank with the elbow, and then here, expand. That's why we want to know the applications, even if we never want to use them. If we do want to use them, then now you know. So, from here, because we're only halfway through, now we're going to, actually we're here. My hand drops, so that's basically resting my right hand behind my thigh. So when I'm here and I push, I end up in this position, right? Tiger's mouth against my thigh. So now I'm going to close the left side of the body, right palm goes up. So what exactly am I doing here? So notice that from here, I don't just do this. This is a closing the entire left side of the body. So my palm goes down, turns so the palm is facing down. Hand and foot in sync are closing in, so I'm sitting fully into the right leg. Now, let me show you something quickly. What we're going to do is, so we're here, 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 we're going to close, we're going to push, and then we're going to do a 180-degree turn into ward off. It's important to know that because when you're here, and you're going to close the left side of the body, you want to make sure that you bring your toes in far enough that then when you shift and turn, your foot is in the correct position, because we're going to go to the cardinal, so you want to make sure that your foot is pointing roughly to the diagonal, right? If you don't go far enough, then when we turn, then your foot is pointing in a very awkward position. So you want to make sure that here, this is a real closing, you're really bringing that toe in. So what are we doing here? This is, somebody has you, grabbed you by the shirt, whatever it is, and you close. So this is turning somebody's arm, and you're bringing your arm down for a shoulder joint, a shoulder twist, which is why you're also sitting down on the rear leg, because it's not just this, it's not the arm doing the work. The arm is doing this, right? You're rolling the arm. The real power is the fact that you're rolling the arm as you're using the waist to close in, right? Notice the hand and shoulder essentially remain in the same position relative to the body. So it's not the arm doing all the work, it's the body bringing all the work, right? And at the same time, my right hand goes up, shift the weight, strike. This can be a strike. This also works if, for example, somebody comes a little lower and you're actually holding onto the arm and turning, right? So this is the standard like arm lock here, and then this would then be a push against the arm. But in the form, we're going to go here, so we're here, we're going to go here and push. And then turn 180, grasp the sparrow's tail. Seal it closed. Push. Just like 13 postures. So you've already done that chunk. Okay? So let's stick it again from the top. So from basic posture, shift to the left, turn to the right, to the diagonal, and push. Bring hand and feet facing cardinal, turn, drag down, push, circle the hands, brush elbow, push, right foot step behind, circle, separate the hands, sweep to the left, step towards the left diagonal, rise up and push. Close the left side of the body, right hand up, shift, strike. Turn 180 degrees so you're now facing the rear diagonal. Grasp the sparrow's tail. All right, just like 13 postures. You've done this before. Sit back, push. And now we're going to shift the weight forward onto the right leg, drop the hands, look left, step left. So it's a 90-degree turn now towards the front diagonal, and we're going to do again, grasp the sparrow's tail, seal it closed. So just like 13 postures. Boom. Okay? So 2 chunks that you've already done, 13 postures. So again, if we started here, we were going diagonal, diagonal, sweep, cardinal, sweep, diagonal, 180 turn, right? 180 turn to the rear diagonal. All of this is to the diagonal. Drop the hands, turn to the diagonal again, so that we end up here facing the right front diagonal. And then we do something we've already done, which is drag down. So from here, I shift the weight so I'm sitting on the left leg, and then I sweep, bring the right foot facing cardinal. Drag down. Same drag down that we did in 13 postures. And then from here, single whip. All right, single whip. Boom. So we were here. I shift the weight forward, slide the right foot to the cardinal as my arms sweep down, drag down, push, sit back onto my left leg, turn face forward. Then I'm going to do single whip. Punch, punch, drag down, push. Okay, so what exactly is happening here? So from drag down, there's a punch that comes. Deflect, deflect. Notice the foot is turning with the arms so that now we're facing squarely front. Boom, boom. Fingers are pointing at the elbow. I go through this position, which means that essentially from here, my palm is facing me. You go here, boom. Right, so you see how this is a deflection. And then I'm going to make a beak and drop it on the inside of my elbow. Hands are touching. And then I'm going to turn and yank to the side. So what's happening here is my arms are going to separate. Elbows are up, hands separating here. Right? So as you turn, you separate the hands. And then as you drop the elbows, you make a talisman. So you're here, and as you drop the elbows, you make a talisman. Drop the elbows, make a talisman so that it's pointed at your wrist. So my weight is still on the left leg, so I was here, bring the right toes in, weight is on the left leg, turn, sit. And here, this is a sit. You have to make sure that you're not turning from the knees, so it's not twisting the knees. It's sitting down, knees are squared, and you're sitting and twisting. It's not a comfortable position, but you're sitting, you're solid here, twist, drop the elbows, and then you punch, and then you shift the weight and punch again. Now, this was a test. It is. If I shifted my weight, if I was here, and I punch with the right hand, my weight is on the left, punch with the right hand. Then I shift the weight onto the right leg. So which hand is dominant? Which hand is being used? Which hand is full? My left hand, the one that has the talisman. So the second punch comes out of my left hand, not the right. Right hand, left hand, because I've shifted the weight. So here, left leg, right hand, right leg, left hand. And then I draw across, keeping the elbows up, yank down, step, push. Before we're going to do that, what exactly is happening here? So what is this? What is this? This is the deflection. So there's an arm coming towards me, right? Somebody threw a punch. I'm going to deflect and drop my hand, forming this beak, and I'm going to hook them in the elbow. So what I'm doing is I'm deflecting and then yanking to the side. Deflect, hook, or in the crook of their elbow essentially, and yank to the side, right? So it's a way of doing something without having to grab them, because we know that the minute you grab somebody, you're actually giving them something to deal with. You're giving them a handle. Because if they're here and I grab their hand, well then now they can actually control me. They can do all sorts of stuff. If I'm here and I make a hook, I can easily evade anything to do because I haven't locked myself onto the arm. So I'm here, I hook the elbow, yank to the side. The other hand is here and we're still touching our own wrist as a reminder that our left hand is doing something. But what it's doing is controlling their left hand, their fist. So this is what it would actually look like, right? In the application, I would be here, this hand controlling their hand, or here actually, my hand locking them against my chest, yanking to the side. So this is where my hands would actually be. And my elbows are up because if the punch is coming this way and I deflect, if I'm here with my elbow down, I don't have purchase here. I'm not hooking over anything. I need to be here in order to actually really hook. So my elbow needs to be up. So that's why when we're here, the elbow's up. I'm going over the arm and hooking, right? You want to go over the arm and hooking. If you're here, you can't, there's no purchase. So you have to go here. Now you can hook. So I'm here, here. Drop the elbows. And we do the talisman. Why? Because if your hand, Right? There's a fist, I've deflected. My hand here controls their fist, and I yank, this hand is on their hands, and now we're gonna go like this, and now what we're doing is we're twisting their arm. Because their elbow, I'm using my elbow to make their elbow go down, and this hand is twisting the wrist. So now I punch, this hand still has a wrist, I'm still in a wrist lock situation, and then I push against the wrist lock on that hand. We'll do a whole video with a little helper to go in details as to the application of this. But this is what you're doing essentially. Deflect, yank to the side, punch, push. Then here this is, somebody grabs you by the shoulder, you come up, that's where the elbow is up because you go over their hand, you drag them down or you yank them down, step, push. And this is, we're now 180, right? So each hand is pointing to a cardinal direction. So that's single whip. So single whip is all of this, here, here, drag, push. That's single whip. That's a signature move from, actually most of the Yang form. In a lot of the other Yang style, you'll see single whip with the arm here at the diagonal, which is incorrect as far as the hidden tradition is, right? The hand is here to the side. 180, so we're along that full plane right here. Not here, but here. It's much more open, okay? That's like the signature move that you see everywhere for single whip.